I really love art. My background is actually in art history, so I love incorporating art and history together. And I think especially for my students, which are special needs students, it's really important for them to be able to express themselves in a way other than reading or writing. So art is something that they were able to achieve without having the burden of having that academic struggle that they usually face. So they started out learning about the curriculum, about runaway slaves. They were able to choose one of the enslaved individuals, and they did research on it. They looked at what the runaway slave ad was and really built a picture in their mind about it throughout the whole unit. And at the end, when Andrea was able to come in and work on the artwork with them, I think they were finally able to pour out all the emotions and all of the thoughts and ideas that they had in their head throughout the unit, and all of the struggles that they felt through this person that they were looking at and researching and really breathing life into, and they were able to put that on paper. And I think all the ideas that they had been thinking for the month or so while we were doing the unit really showed on paper, and really was this vibrant piece of work that they were able to come up with. And I think they were all really proud of what they had accomplished at the end. I think the curriculum was really well written, and I think a lot of it was geared towards special needs kids or anybody. I mean, special needs doesn't necessarily mean that they're unable to do things. It just means it takes them a bit longer to do something sometimes. So as far as the curriculum went, we broke up each lesson into 2 or 3 lessons because they were so dense and there was so much information and so much we wanted the kids to get out of it, that it wasn't so much that their disability got in the way. It was just the amount of information and the amount of information that was in each lesson. We just wanted to spread out. And I think Ms. Factor, who has gen ed kids, was also able to do the same, to use the same lesson. So it was nice for me to collaborate with another teacher, as well as Ms. Conti, who's the art teacher, to come up with this project. When they started figuring out the fact that all of this took place in New York, when we started showing them pictures of what New York looked like during the time period, when we started talking to them about Phillips, and that, it really brought to life the history that was in the city where they had grown up, that they didn't really know much about. And Ms. Factor and I also didn't know much about, so it was really personal for us. We've both grown up here. So as the unit went on and we started to kind of think about what kids would fit with what person, we gave them the option of 2 or 3, and then they were able to choose from that because they didn't know much about, we didn't want them to have to read through all the slave ads. We kind of gave them the option of 2 or 3 after figuring out what would be better geared towards which student. Most of our population is Hispanic. Mm-hmm. We have a pretty small African American population, a few kids, but not as many as we have the Latino population. But it's still somebody being different, somebody coming from another country, somebody who is disadvantaged in a place where you are the minority. We actually started out with an immigration unit in September, and unfortunately, now thinking back on it, it would have been a really great connection. I think we tried to kind of get them wrap their heads around this project and this person, and make it personal in that sense. I think as time goes on and we do this project throughout the next several years, we can make that connection for them also. I think since it was the first year, it was difficult for us to know how much would we be able to get through in the time period that we had. What would be interesting for the kids, what would be challenging for them, we, myself and Ms. Factor, were really emotionally invested in this project. We loved it so much and we wanted the kids to love it just as much, but it was a first year experience for us. So I think for next year, we'll definitely spend more time delving into each person and really the historical part of it. It was part of the curriculum, but I don't think we spent as much time as we wanted to on certain parts. So it was a good learning process for us and the kids also. We try to work with primary documents as much as we can. Obviously, it's a huge part of history, and it's so easily accessible to us at this point that it would be a shame if we didn't work with primary sources as much as we do. I think what made it really special was that they were primary sources from New York, and they were in New York newspapers, and some of them still exist today, and I think that made it really real for the kids, that it was, it said New York, and it said a date, and it, although it didn't have a lot of the landmarks that they see now, that was a really huge connection for them, that it was right here, and it said newspapers that they heard about. So I think that was a really huge thing for them, to make that connection between, oh wow, I see this now, and this was in the 1700s. So there must be some sort of connection between the two. I think we have a lot of our population is not only special needs, but a lot of them are English language learners, and I think visuals just in general really capture their attention, and things that are out of the ordinary. You don't see a person walking around with 4 diamonds in their face on a daily basis, so I think things like that really struck them, and the items that they brought with them or weren't able to bring with them, I think they really grasped onto also, because that was something that, as you said, were visuals, and they could remember and they could capture, and they did retain.